All right, hey guys, this is Roman, and I'm here with Mr. Regular for the inaugural All right, take two. Hey guys, the Roman here. I am here with Mr. Regular for the inaugural Ask Mr. Regular segment. So I'm just going to ask him some questions that were submitted by you guys on our subreddit, and hopefully, this becomes a regular thing. No pun intended. So, oh great, I'm going to edit around this. So the first question comes from Zora894, Sheetz or Wawa?
This is a Pennsylvania battle that will be waged, and the ashes will run redder than the separation between the North and the South. Sheetz or Wawa? For those of you who don't know what we're talking about gas stations. We're talking about a chain of gas stations. They serve different purposes. Sheetz, okay, here's the main thing. Okay, Sheetz is normally found in lower income areas, and the reason Sheetz is found in lower income areas is because they typically make their businesses, this gas stations, bigger. They have a larger footprint. The nice thing about Sheetz is I have yet to see one that double stacks their pumps, in that they have a long stretch of fuel pumps, and each one of them is only one car. They don't do that thing where you have to double up and, oh, someone pulled up, I have to go around and filter back behind, or that guy moved in, now I have to back up. You pull in one side and you pull out the other side. It's very easy to get gas at Sheetz. Wawas are found in slightly more upscale areas, like the Tilden Township near Cabela's. Those, they double stack their pumps, and they're harder to get in and out of. They have smaller real estate. So in that respect, Sheetz wins. It's easier to get gas out of Sheetz than it is at Wawa. Now, the other thing, food. In Pennsylvania, and a bit in Jersey and New York State as well, it's not uncommon to go get lunch at a gas station because they're fast food restaurants inside them. Wawa has better food. Sheetz has more, right?
Well, because I'm Team Sheetz for food, but actually, am I though? Like, that's the weird thing is that it changes by the day. Like, right. It's on Wawa has a superior coffee.
They do. Wawa has better coffee than Sheetz.
Sheetz, depending on what you get, like if you're going to Wawa, the Hoagie Fest is like a religion around here.
Yeah.
Every summer.
Yeah. The thing about, okay, you go into Wawa and they will always have hoagies or subs or zeppelins or depending on what you want to talk about. And you can go all the way back and read Maniac McGee by Jerry Spinelli, and you can talk about subs. That was an obscure reference. You go into Wawa and they always will make fresh subs, and honestly, their subs are better than Subway, better than Quiznos. Yeah. Don't get them toasted. Just get them regular. They can't make a cheesesteak and they can't make a meatball sub though. When it comes to feel good comfort food that isn't good for you but is yummy, that's when you go to Sheetz. Sheetz, great mac and cheese, great chili, hot dogs. I mean, it's a gas station hot dog. What do you want? But when it comes to yum fun,
yeah, their featured item right now are mac and Cheetos, where it's a little fried mac and cheese bite that's encrusted with Cheeto dust. And so you go to Sheetz, you know exactly what you're getting. And the thing is, when you go to order at Sheetz, they make recommendations to you before they let you go to the place you want to go. So if I go to the ordering screen, because it's a little, one of those computer screens, it's the same thing at Wawa, but Sheetz, you go on there, and if I hit chicken category or something, before they'll let me see the whole chicken menu, they'll say, would you like to try, this thing first? And you have to hit yes or no. And so they're trying really hard to push certain things on you. If I go to hit for a sandwich, they're like, hey, do you want this thing to have Dietz and Watson ham on it? You know, because that's our special. And it's like, yes or no. And then after you make your order, it'll say, well, would you like to get our new side of the month or whatever it is? And often there will be multiple screens that you have to click through with this thing of like, no, I don't want the Wisconsin cheese bites. No, I don't want sweet potato waffle fries. No, I don't want this nacho platter. Like, I literally just want this hot dog or this, soft pretzel or something. And so, Sheetz is kind of, it's like going down Times Square, someone's trying to sell you stuff, but Wawa, it's like going, just to your local mom and pop shop, get what you want, you look around, if you want something, we're here, you know what you're getting. Now, you know what you're getting at Sheetz too, but it's kind of like you really don't, because when you go in there, you might have an idea towards what you're going to get, but you're assaulted with so many options that it changes your mind. Whereas Wawa, the options, it's just they make a set number of things really well, and they're not going to change that. So, right.
Okay. But we haven't answered the question, which is better. Gosh darn it! Now I have to narrow it down. If I'm getting gas, I will go to Sheetz. If I know I want something to eat, I'm going to Wawa. But now I have to choose.
I mean, does the coffee put it over the top?
The
Wawa coffee?
Yeah, it does. I mean, if coffee's involved, Wawa wins. And I'll stand and I'll deal with the fuel pumps if it means getting better coffee. Wawa or Sheetz. See, Sheetz is more pencil. Yeah. Now, when we're on road trips, we tend to favor Sheetz, but that's because we're often headed west because we're on the East Coast. By default, we're often headed west, and Sheetz, by the time you pass Harrisburg and once you're in Altoona, it's Sheetz country. And then it's Sheetz and Get Go and all of that, but when we head east, it's Wawa. There's never been a reason not to get Wawa when you head east. See if anybody gets that reference. Did you get that reference?
No.
Oh, there's never been a reason to head east.
Oh.
Save my life. I'm going down one. All right. I'm dazed and confused. And the thing is, where I live, I have a Sheetz and a Wawa almost equidistant. No, wait, the Wawa's just a little bit farther. Here's another thing. Sheetz is better for car meets because they have larger real estate, and Sheetz has outdoor seating in the summertime. So it's not uncommon to find car meets at Sheetz because they encourage lingering because they have picnic tables outside, so you can park, you can have something to eat, and Sheetz is cooler with car meets. Gosh darn it.
Yeah,
I know, it's tough. It's really super tough, but it's meant to be that way because competition and capitalism and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't have an answer which is better.
Next question is from Gliz5714. What is a current car fad that you think will bust in the coming years?
I think infotainment will go away. Ooh, but it's cheaper to make one big screen than it is to make a whole bunch of buttons. Remember when DVD players were all the rage and they got built into cars? The little flip down thing from the ceiling? The iPad killed that. Why play physical media when you have something that has better resolution than that thing? Mike Regensberger, the station manager for Kutztown University Radio, drives an Oldsmobile Silhouette, and that thing. The Oldsmobile, we got to review. We've been trying for like 3 years to review his van, but he's always super busy because he's a station manager. And every time I see it, it gets worse and worse because it's the family minivan. He's got 2 kids, so it's just Cheeto dust inside, and it's just a mess inside that van. But he's like, "Well, I should clean it," and I'm like, "Don't." This van exists exactly how it exists. But when he bought it, the Oldsmobile Silhouette, and I'm getting away from the question, I know that. The Oldsmobile Silhouette was one of the most expensive minivans ever made by General Motors, or even any American manufacturer for that matter. The thing had friggin' chrome wheels. It was at all the options, including these DVD players. And it was Chrysler may have started the minivan, but GM made the last hurrah, and it was the Oldsmobile Silhouette. It was a very classy minivan in its day. And his had, I think, 2 DVD monitors in it. And that was an option, but it came from General Motors. So, and it's also the end of the Oldsmobile marquee as well. But we saw DVD players go away, and I think we will see an end to the big screen. Now, of course, didn't Tesla. It's just one gigantic screen in there. Of course, that sort of fits the car. I think people will grow tired of tapping buttons, and that's a Star Trek Voyager reference. We'll get tired of tapping buttons and want physical knobs and switches back, because you can operate them without taking your eyes off the road, and you can feel where they are instead of having to look where they are. Because, again, iPods have better media. Now, it is nice in some cars that you can have all your gauges. I know with some of the Mustangs, especially the EcoBoost, you can choose to have a boost gauge. Of course, Subaru does that as well, a digital boost gauge that will change. But it makes more sense to have that option on the dash, like your instrument cluster in front of the steering wheel, than it is to have it in a center pod in the center of the car. But at the same time, on a mass scale, it's cheaper to just make one gigantic do-it-all screen than to have little ones, like Ted's Scion IA, or rather now the Toyota IA, because his just has one big screen and you have to do everything through that joystick, but that's dumb. Yeah, that's my prediction. We'll see the phasing out of infotainment for traditional gauges.
All right, Magic Drumsy asks, Mr. Regular, what's your experience with drums and marching band? What did you play while in it?
I was in the drum line. I played bass drum. I was in the bass line all 4 years of high school in indoor drum line, which is an East Coast thing. Indoor drum line is what you do during the wintertime. It's marching band, but on a basketball court, and it's all percussion. Although some schools get away with having a guy on a bass guitar and an amp. That's not a percussion instrument, but some judges look the other way when they do that. My high school never did that. In indoor drumline, I was baseline freshman, sophomore, and senior year. Junior year, I was timpani and snare. So I think the first song we played, I was on timpani, and I had my harness on under my uniform. And then for the second song, I picked up a snare drum because we went. Our drum instructor said, "Let's just be as big as we want." Because in indoor drumline, you really don't want a whole lot of instruments because it gets so boomy. But screw that, we're going 6 snares on an indoor drumline. So it was 5 snares for the first one, and I came on as a 6th. And we had because it was great. We had a company front. Big company front. We had 6 snares, 5 basses, 3 quints. And we did this big long company front where we all did this cross sticking between each one of us. I don't miss band camp, but I miss competitions and I miss those long bus rides. One time I was doing algebra homework during marching band practice after school, because when you wear your bass drum, you have a desk right in front of you. So I taped a TI-85 graphing calculator that I borrowed from can I borrow this? I'm like, yeah, you can borrow that. So I taped the graphing calculator onto the bass drum, and I taped my homework onto that. And in between when they were fixing sets, and you have like a few minutes as everybody just stands in formation, and they're fixing something or doing something with the woodwinds. I'm just there doing homework. Writing it down. And you have your lugs that go across the drum. You just rest your pencil on there. I know how to roll step and keep things steady. Nothing's going to fall off my bass drum. So I did homework while marching. Oh, and you also have the rack there on the top of your drum where you have different mallets. I mean, normally when we're just practicing, I just use my hard mallets, but in some songs we have softer ones, the big fuzzy ones. And I had a Gatorade bottle to which I hot glued a railroad spike. I'm not joking this, and that made I called it the drink master, and it would just clunk right up there on my mallet holders, and I could have, I think I had room for like 6 mallets. No, I had room for 4 mallets, but you're only using 2 at a time, so there's 2 free. So up there, my drink. I didn't have to wait for a 2-minute or a take 5 break to have a drink. Just have it right there.
Seminole Sound asks, what one thing do you think needs to come to electric cars to enable them to become regular? Is it something as simple as better range, or is there something more nuanced you see missing?
It's what you said. You need better range. People get range anxiety. Well, what happens if you run out of charge? What then? Well, then you charge it. Or you know your range. We're still hovering right around 250 miles. Yeah, battery technology is reaching some sort, it's hitting a wall right now. One solution is just to pack more batteries in cars, which reduces its cargo capacity, increases its weight, and increases its cost. Then you bump into price point. Another thing is to find a way to have electric cars be logical for people who don't have garages with electricity in them. It's very difficult if you have a solely electric car that you have to park on the streets. What are you going to do? Have an extension cord running out of your house across the sidewalk to your car? I mean, it's okay if you own your own house. It's okay if you don't have a garage then. It's on your property. See, the main thing is people are going to mess with it. I mean, maybe it's different if you live in an affluent neighborhood where people behave themselves. But if you live in a neighborhood filled with children who grew up in abusive households and whose idea of a good time is to cause property damage, well, then that's not a great idea to have something snip. Yeah, fuck you, faggot. You know, the kids who go around and break windows because fuck you, that's why. So now really I'm just speaking to it's blight. Now you're bumping up against larger social issues. I mean, I had this conversation with a guy I knew in the neighborhood who bought a Tesla. I mean, he has a house, and I think he bought a P100, or yeah, the P100, right? It's the newer one. I should go ask him and say, can I look at it? And he'd show it to me. But I had a conversation with him and he said, oh, well, you're a car guy. Should I get this? And I'm like, it's your money. Buy the car you really want. And he said, well, I have to have a conversation with the wife. We have to sell another one of our cars. I said, well, do what you want. And then he said this to me. He said, what do you think people are going to think? It's an expensive car. And we didn't really have an answer for that. I mean, it doesn't matter in places like Seattle or more tech-heavy places, or even places like King of Prussia that's pretty nice. Even like Westchester. Of course, you know, nicer places of Philly as well. But when you're out here in the sticks and you drive a really nice car or a specific type of nice car, you may be seen as putting on airs. And that may be grounds for some sort of community revenge, even if it's as something as simple and as Victorian as, oh, I see you got a nice car. You know, like from a neighbor.
Yeah.
It's something very herself surprised. I don't want to go Henry James on this again, but it's those little Lady Chatterley's lover. It's a little bit of that subtle class structure that permeates its way into smaller communities, and in that way, rural Pennsylvania has more in common with the UK than it does with America, where you have those, I'm blanking on some novels where half of it is like a commentary on class struggle, that it's more in common with provincial England than it is here.
Sister Carrie. I mean, like, Sister Carrie is kind of a Theodore Dreiser. It's that notion of the rigidity of class structures, you know, but
right, and the idea that moving between these levels is some sort of sin.
Yeah. And so that's that whole possibility of social advancement and the signifiers of that advancement, you know, the stuff that you own, the things that you can provide. So I can understand in certain areas why a car like a Tesla would draw the animus out of people, of just that sense of like, who the fuck do you think you are?
Yeah.
You know, it would be different if, you know, it were something that wasn't as put on a pedestal. You know, it's kind of, if you went to if every Wawa or every Sheetz had a charging station, that type of thing, right. You know, and people sort of began to see electric cars as something that's just sort of there and not this thing that you have to be this super liberal, well-off person with a tech job to be able to afford and to be able to enjoy, you know, because there is that stigma in the same way with sort of people who have hybrids of, it's like that old South Park thing of like just people smelling their own farts and, you know, in a champagne glass. Like that's the idea that some people have, but it's not the actual case.
I think half of the animosity that comes from driving a nice car in a sort of, let's be honest, the place where we live is almost is working poor. Is like, it is lower middle class to poor. And when you show up in something that exists outside of the norm, even if it's something as innocuous from a Los Angeles or Southern California perspective as a Tesla shows up as bright and shiny as an adolescent zit. I should write that down. Yeah. Anyway, so a line from Carrie goes from Carrie in early on in the novel is page 74 of her getting taken out with Drouet and becoming aware of the vast differences between classes. She says, or rather, this is Dreiser, or the narrator, commenting on this. At the time of this particular conversation, which occurred at 5 a.m., that little soldier of fortune, meaning Carrie, was sleeping a rather troubled sleep in her new room alone. Okay, this is where Drouet, who is really this sort of a douchebag in the story, becomes her sugar daddy when he gets Carrie this apartment all to herself, and like that he's paying for. We are inclined sometimes to wring our hands much more profusely over the situation of another than the mental attitude of that other toward his own condition would seem to warrant. People do not grieve so much over their own state as we imagine. They suffer, but bear it manfully. They are distressed, but is about other things as a rule than their actual state at the moment. We see, as we grieve for them, the whole detail of their blighted career, a vast confused imagery of mishaps, converring years, yeah, much as we read a double decade of tragedy in a 10-hour novel. Sort of self-referential here. The victim, meanwhile, for a single day or tomorrow, is not actually anguished. He meets his unfolding fate by the minute and hour as it comes, which is meaning that people are not really aware of their own state until they're brought against a contrast of another. And that is what something like an electric car does. It's outside of the norm, and you become aware of your own common condition when presented with something uncommon. What was the question again?
How do electric cars become more accepted and regular, I guess?
Bruce Springsteen needs to write a song about them. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
JB7150 asks, what is your favorite car from a dead brand?
Studebaker Golden Hawk. Studebaker Golden Hawk, I saw them. I saw two of them, one at Bruce's and one in a barn find, which I wasn't going to buy. No way. Studebaker Golden Hawk is today we would call it a GT car. Somewhere along the lines of an Infiniti G35. The Studebaker Golden Hawk is from the 50s. And I think early 60s. Late 50s, early 60s. It is a fast, comfortable, two-door sports coupe. And they even offered, I think, a Paxton supercharger on it, claiming 300 horsepower. I don't know exactly what it made. It was very expensive, very nicely put together, and hopelessly complicated, and it was in the waning years of Studebaker. There is no way the car could have saved the brand. It was way too expensive, way too fast, and only a curiosity for those who have the money, even more so than the Dodge Hellcat is to what Chrysler is today. That's still a working car that's reliable. If you drive it normally, it'll be fine. The Studebaker Golden Hawk is still 1950s tech, really trying to be 1970s tech. At the time, the styling was okay. Now it looks a bit designed by committee. It was Studebaker trying to say, we still have class. Remember us? We're still there. It's like, Boscov's is still going strong. It's still a classy store, and at least trying to be classy. The Studebaker Golden Hawk is very faded glory.
It's like Strawbridges.
Yes!
Yeah, do people remember Strawbridge and Clothiers? Like, it was just kind of this high-end, would-be high-end department store. And it's just the whole idea being that if we present ourselves a certain way, then people are going to perceive us that way, whether we are or not, you know. Now, Strawbridge is probably like a little nicer than Boscov's, but I mean, like, it depends.
See, I remember Boscov's from a late 80s, early 90s perspective. And Grandma liked going to Boscov's. Even the local one here still has chandeliers on the ceiling. Although the carpet is, you can tell that thing's, no amount of shampooing is going to make that carpet look nice anymore. There's still perfume counters with lots of mirrors. There's still little kids that go up there and squirt perfume at each other, and the clerks will still smile because kids don't really know they're not supposed to be doing that. They don't carry fishing licenses anymore. I don't think. The sports department is gone. And really, it's just all the mid-level stuff you can get from Amazon. Anyway, it's mostly clothes, less gadgets. The electronics department is gone. They still have toys, but they're way in the back. Studebaker is like... The name still carries class. I'm too young to remember Wanamakers. That was something that Grandma would talk about with misty eyes, going to Wanamakers. That was when you got dressed up to go to a department store. And the Studebaker Golden Hawk was a car you put a tie on to drive.
Yeah. It's Studebaker is the department store with a restaurant in it, you know?
Yeah.
Well, Boscov's had the greenery.
Yeah,
which,
the Boscov's up there still has The Boscov's up there still has a greenery. You can have lunch in this department store. but the greenery is at best the airport. Like it's, I would honestly rather eat at the airport diner in Kutztown than I would at the greenery. The greenery to me was a place Mom took me to eat when I was sick from school. Like when I was homesick, we got to go to Boscov's, but you're well enough that you can go out. You definitely Ferris Buellered your cold or your flu a little bit. Well, I think I'm going to throw up. Okay, I'm going to stay home from school. But, yeah, you go to the department store, you go to the greenery. It's a Tuesday. It's 10:15 a.m., so you're having brunch at the greenery. And the waitress says something very clever in her eyes. Aren't you supposed to be in school today? And you say, I'm sick. And she goes, oh. And then you have, I always had this exact same thing. BLT. I always had a BLT. It was really melty and everything. So that was the greenery. And that was a Studebaker Golden Hawk.
And that's a wrap on this week's episode of Ask Mr. Regular. And I'm the Roman, and that's Mr. Regular. And thanks for watching.